Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you're curious about and really break them down to pull up the key insights for you.
Exactly.
And today we're looking at a YouTube video. It's from the Doctor. Roger Paul channel called The Origin, History, and Destiny of Universe Reality Part 6, dated August 15th, 2024. Right? And it's building on earlier stuff, looking at the universe, deity, specifically using the foreword of a text they keep calling the Urantia book or sometimes Urantia book. Yeah, and our mission today is really to understand these different levels of deity function. The video talks about, pre-personal, personal, super personal.
And also that distinction they make between deity and divinity. Let's see if we can unpack that.
Okay, so where do we start? The video jumps right in, picking up from previous session, talking about the total function of deity across, well, all the levels we can apparently perceive. First up is static deity.
Okay, static. What does that imply here? Is it like unchanging?
Sort of, but more like foundational. Think self-contained, self-existent. It doesn't rely on anything else. It just is. It's the base layer.
Exactly, the bedrock.
And the examples given are pretty significant. God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit.
Right? The key idea there is self-sufficiency. They exist independently. Got it.
Okay, level 2. That's described as self-willed and self-purposeful deity.
Hmm. Okay, self-willed. How is that different from just self-existent? Sounds similar.
It's subtle. Yeah, static is about being independent existence. Self-willed adds the layer of agency, the capacity for independent action, for purpose, for intent.
Ah, so it's about having a will of their own.
Precisely. And again, the examples are the same. Father, Son, Spirit. It highlights their ability to act with purpose.
Makes sense.
Then comes associative deity. The description is self-perspective spirit.
This one feels like it's about connection, relationship.
Exactly. The focus shifts towards interaction, personalizing relationships, especially with their created children, becoming, as the source puts it, fraternal, moving from just being to being with.
Nicely put.
Okay, level 4, creative deity. This is labeled self-distributive and divinely revealed self-distributive.
Sounds like sharing.
That's a good way to think about it. It's about the transfer, the outflowing of creative.
From who to whom?
Well, the video mentions the Father, Son, and Spirit, transferring creative power to beings called creator sons.
Okay.
And also the infinite spirit transferring power to local universe mother spirits. It's like delegating creation. So these creator sons are like direct extensions, direct distributions of the Father and Son's creativity.
That seems to be the idea. Yeah. Receiving that creative spark directly. Interesting.
All right. Level 5 moves into evolutionary deity, self-expanding and creature identified. Who fits here? This is where the creator sons and the local universe mother spirits come in again, but now they're evolutionary.
How so?
Well, it means they're not static themselves. They experience growth, expansion, change within their own universes, and they also distribute their deity, their essence, further down the line to other beings like the Verandadek sons and Lanonandek sons mentioned in the source.
So they're like sub-distributors, and they identify with the creatures in their realms.
Sort of, yeah. They're involved, evolving alongside their creations to some extent, and sharing their nature. They guide the evolution.
Okay, this is where it starts getting really layered.
Level 6, Supreme Deity, Self-Experiential Creature Creator Unifying. Big concepts there.
Definitely. The core idea here revolves around the supreme being. And what's its role?
It's described as almost like absorbing experience, taking in the experiences of finite creatures, the creator sons, the mother spirits, and unifying all of that within itself. Like a cosmic consciousness built from collective experience.
That's one way to picture it, yeah.
And importantly, the video notes the Supreme existed before all the creator son experiences were fully realized. It's the framework for that unification.
And this ties into the creature identificational level for the beings overseeing the grand universe, right? The time-space realms up to the 7 super universes.
Exactly. The 7 master spirits, for instance, funnel experience towards the Supreme. The seventh master spirit is even called the vicegerent of the supreme. So the supremacy of deity means the supreme is essentially the god.
That's the implication. It's this reciprocal relationship where created experience enriches the deity overseeing it. It validates the whole finite experience. Wow.
Okay. Seventh level, ultimate deity, self-projected, space transcending. Now we're going further out, way further out. Seems like this ultimate deity is described with terms like omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and existing outside the seven superuniverses, so beyond the domain of the supreme.
Right. The hierarchy presented is supreme, then ultimate, then absolute.
And the ultimate's job? It unifies divinity experience from an even wider scope. The seven superuniverses, yes, but also the outer space levels, and these beings called absonate in Paradise and Havona.
Absonite. Okay, that's a new term we need to pin down.
The video links this to a transcendental level, meaning outside time and space.
Correct. Outside our normal constraints.
These absonate beings and the ultimate deity function operate on a level beyond the time-space mechanics of the grand universe where the Supreme operates.
So the ultimate is like the super manager for the whole master universe, overseeing even the outer regions.
That's the sense of it, described as universal over-control or super-sustenance, sometimes called the ultimacy of deity.
Okay, visualizing this, the video suggests concentric circles.
Yeah, that helps. Supreme is the inner circle, the seven superuniverses. Then ultimate is the next circle out, adding the four outer space levels. And then the absolute is the biggest circle, containing everything: paradise, Havona, finite, non-finite, absonite, ultimate, the total picture. But not everything in that big circle is itself absolute, right? That term seems reserved. Very much so. The video clarifies this using notes from an illustrated version of the book. For example, not everything on Paradise is absolute.
So what is absolute? And what about these other terms, transcendental and absonite?
Okay, so transcendental beings. They're mentioned as living in West Paradise. They are absonite, and they're linked to the architects of the Master Universe, the ones who generate nebulae, the raw stuff of universes.
Exactly.
These transcendental beings, being absonate, can affect time-space, but time-space doesn't affect them.
A one-way street?
Pretty much. They work with the architects manipulating this primordial matter, these nebulae, which creator suns then use to build their local universes, starting, apparently, with system capitals.
Takes a while, I imagine.
Oh, undoubtedly. Now, absolute beings. The definition is stark: no beginning, no end, eternally existent.
Host B. Okay, how does that compare to transcendental beings?
Transcendental beings are not absolute in that sense. They are eventuated,
Eventuated meaning?
meaning they come into existence at the will of the Trinity. But they aren't created like finite beings are. They just appear in a way. But crucially, like absolute beings, they are not bound by time and space.
So eventuated means not created, not born, but brought forth by divine will.
That seems to be the concept. The source calls them eventuated children of divinity, ultimacy, and eternity, explicitly stating they are neither creators nor creatures. And this is where absonate comes back in.
Yes, absonate means neither finite nor infinite. Absonity is neither infinity nor absoluteness. So transcendental beings are absonate. They occupy this middle ground.
Let's try to solidify absonate then. The video mentioned its roots. Yeah, from Latin, ab plus a salutis, meaning set free, free from constraints, independent, not relative to anything else, which fits the no beginning, no end idea.
Exactly, and
And the absolute level itself, like paradise, is described as beginningless, endless, timeless, spaceless. Its trinity attained, essentially, the ultimate final level of unifying deity expression.
okay, so absolute is the ultimate state, free of all limits. Now back to absonite. Define that middle ground again.
Absonate is the state between the absolute paradise level and the finite evolutionary level. You could call it superfinite or time-space transcendent, because finite beings, like us, are defined by time and space limits.
Right.
Abstinate reality involves things and beings without those beginnings or endings, transcending time and space. Remember, they're eventuated, not created. And the deity level of ultimacy, that's God the ultimate we talked about, functions in relation to this abstinent reality.
Yes, in the master universe where time and space are transcended. So that second level, the abstinent level, corresponds to the ultimacy of deity or ultimate supremacy. And this abstinent realm includes paradise in Havona.
It seems so. And remember, those transcendental abstinent beings working with the architects, they work with the nebulae and the outer space levels, which are also beyond the seven super universes. This is deeply complex. The source even mentions the Paradise Trinity having a specific regard for these levels that are more than finite, but less than absolute. The Trinity of Ultimacy.
So neither the supreme nor the ultimate fully represents the Trinity, but they kind of act for it on their respective levels, especially early on.
In a qualified sense, yes. During their pre-personal eras of experiential power development, as the source puts it. And abstinent itself, probably a coined term just for this concept.
Seems very likely, yeah, to denote that specific in-between state.
And because those four outer space levels are also time-space transcendent, it makes sense that abstinent beings are linked to their eventual administration. What does all this mean for finite beings like us eventually? Do we interact with this?
Well, the discussion hints at it. When finite beings achieve finality, become paradise citizens, they apparently start interacting with abstinent and absolute beings. Reaching the core of finality seems to be a transition point into these transcendental relationships.
Okay, let's quickly recap God the Ultimate again. It's the ultimate of supremacy, right? That second major level, bridging finite and absolute.
Yeah,
It's the experiential deity function for that abstinent, time-space, transcendent reality. Self-projected beyond time-space, omni-everything, unifying deity expression and overseeing the master universe outside the seven super-universes. While the Supreme remains the deity manifestation within the finite, time-space-bound grand universe. Now, with all these names, Supreme, Ultimate, Father, Son, Spirit, Creator, Sons, it could sound like, well, lots of gods.
right. You might think it sounds polytheistic.
But the video addresses this. It frames everything within what it calls the seven absolutes. These aren't separate gods, but more like fundamental characteristics or aspects of the first source and center, God the Father, like different facets of the one reality.
Okay, what are these seven absolutes? Can we list them?
Sure, there's God the Father, the first source, God the Son, the second source, God the Spirit, the third source. Those are the deity sources. Then the Isle of Paradise, seen as a non-deity, material, absolute source. After that, it gets more abstract. The deity absolute, which is like qualified potential within the Father.
Okay,
The universal absolute, which sort of melds the deity and non-deity aspects. And finally, the unqualified absolute, described as a non-deity reality potential involved in the cosmos, maybe manipulating raw potential or primordial matter.
wow. Seven fundamental aspects of reality itself interacting in complex ways.
That's the picture painted, yeah. It's definitely not a simple polytheism. It's a very structured monotheism with complex manifestations.
All right, maybe one last review of the three core levels of reality to tie this together. Finite, abstinent, absolute.
Good idea. So finite, that's us, creature life. Defined by space and time limitations, we have beginnings, but the source suggests potentially no endings, maybe through achieving fusion with God. And the deity level related to this is supremacy of the supreme being.
Correct.
Then, abstinent. This is characterized by things and beings without beginnings or endings in our sense, transcending time and space. They're eventuated, remember, not created. And the deity level here is ultimacy, God, the ultimate, ultimate supremacy.
Right?
And finally, absolute, beginningless, endless, timeless, spaceless. Paradise is a prime example. This level is existential, fundamental, Trinity attained.
No specific deity level associated here because it's the source level itself?
Essentially, yes. It's the foundational reality from which the others derive expression.
Okay. I mean, that's a lot to take in. The sheer intricacy is staggering.
It really is. The source itself, as mentioned in the video, kind of points to this complexity as evidence it's maybe beyond human invention. It definitely requires repeated exposure and study to really begin to grasp. So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've navigated through these different layers of how deity functions from the basic static level right up to the ultimate. And we've tried to clarify those crucial distinctions between the supreme, the ultimate, and the absolute, and also between finite, abstinate, and absolute realities and the beings within them. Hopefully, this gives you a starting point, a framework for understanding these, well, frankly, mind bending concepts from the video.
But like any deep exploration, it probably raises as many questions as it answers.
Definitely. So, a final thought for you to consider. Given this immense layered cosmos described, what does it suggest about our own place, our potential future? Think about that difference between being created within time and space and being eventuated beyond it. What does a reality beyond time even mean? And what new questions does this spark for you? What aspects of this cosmology would you want to explore further? Because really, we've only scratched